Hey guys, I wanted to share a story. Or like just literally, this just happened a few minutes ago. My mom was going through her old rings, and she brought out one that my dad gave to her. Um, she wanted me to take it. I told her, I said, I can't take it right now. And she knows I wouldn't be, I know I'm not going to take it now, but it's going to be very hard taking it from her when she does eventually pass away. But I decided to come in here and write more of a strong piece of wisdom, more so of more of an, I would say, how I would choose to live my life. But this is going to sum it up quite well. But how I'm gonna choose to live my life, and how my legacy, how my mom's legacy is gonna inspire me and inspire hopefully those. Okay, it's gonna help me really. I wrote this because this is my. I told her I can't think about my next story in my life. It's right now it's extremely hard to tell. Is it even safe to to I honestly right now, since a lot of things in my life now have, I'm not going to let those bother me because my mom, the thing is, I could care less about what society does, how it affects other people. I do care about sickness though, of how that is much more fatal, and how people overcome sickness in many ways, how they can push through it. Because my mom is a great advocate for somebody who's been through the flames of hell and made it out alive. And even as somebody who is an advocate for speaking up for people who think that their life is over, or meaning that their lives aren't worth living, or I'm gonna be somebody who speaks about my mom a lot in most meetings, because my mom's had cancer, she's had a stroke, she's had things being in the hospital related to her diabetes. This woman has walked the Hall of Flames and back. But this is, and I wrote a quote my mom would state to me if if I did end up fighting with somebody, and somebody specific, this is what my mom would state to me: she will leave you, I won't be a part of it. But that's her strength of saying, if you fight with a woman or anybody, they will leave you, and they're going to say, I don't want a part of it. And I make sure I deliver that message to those who need it. As I said, my friend Andrew called. Actually, he called. I called him, and he had asked me about. Hang on. Yeah. But again, my mom always used to state that to me if I would fight with my significant other or we'd have disagreements. That was one of the many quotes she would say to me, and one of the many things she would say to me is, "She will leave you. I won't be a part of it." But honestly, I will say I'm not ready at all. I mean, I wrote this pretty strongly because she told me these were her words, because my mom's a strong person and she was going through her rings. I said, I can't take any of those rings right now. And I said it for a reason, because I'm not ready, and I don't think I'll be ready for any time soon. But she said, when I die, I need you to take this ring that your dad gave to me. I can't, I told her, I said, I can't, I'm gonna, do, I mean, I told her I wouldn't be able to do it now, but if you want me to do it, I'm just, it left me with emotion, but this happened a few minutes ago. But I wanted to write something entitled to it because my mom is somebody who is very strong. She has conquered pretty much a lot of things that nobody should ever have to. I mean, unfortunately, people do go through, but she's gone through it all. She's had cancer twice. She had a stroke, and and before all of that, she would have obstructions, and those were things that really impacted her. And the more she got out of stuff like that, like the bowel obstructions, those were like days on end that she had to go to the hospital. And sometimes she'd spend a couple nights. I remember my dad and I having to travel to Lewiston for some of her bowel obstructions. Um, but this is what I wrote. I refuse to take this ring until God is ready to gift you your wings. You revealed the next story in my life, stating to those I love in my presence and in my community the question I should also ask myself: why should I worry about your passing, especially currently and not 4 to 5 years from now? I will hold on to it when it's time and necessary. I wish I could have understood growing up you holding me in your arms, those who chose to hold me, those who were diagnosed with a disability and baptized were special in many ways, or had cancer. You conquered what directly hit your ability to go out and embrace a nation that's loaded with clouded judgment and the truth about being around functionable and non functional human beings. You are not just a person, you have given everything people needed, traveling in blizzards and storms, helping families who are at the edge of being able to provide for themselves, like Jennifer, delivering food to those who couldn't go out. I will continue on with your historical legacy and heartful actions to those in my life. I will continue to support those who are afraid to conquer and strengthen themselves to embrace every day. But many people that know my mom that may not know her well, they know that she's an incredibly great person. And I should know better. And my mom would state to me, that's judgment that I needed to hear. That people will leave you if you do not. You need, because the thing is, she would also state to me, you need to listen. You need, because people that you want to be around, we will leave you. They will walk away. And if it's harder for people to walk, because I've seen this also in people that I'm friends with, they find it incredibly hard instead of facing somebody and getting into somebody's else's maybe problem with another person. It's best if you just don't you choose not to get involved because that person's going to drag you in no matter what. And I stated this and I pointed this out to Andrew, um but there's been some sort of conflicts going on days he goes at program, and I told him, I said, Andrew, it is your choice. You don't need to listen to people that you don't need to be involved with people that are fighting, that are constantly fighting. Nobody wants that. If they're not involved in a fight or a disagreement, they have the right to leave and say, I'm going to let so and so handle this, or whoever is having a disagreement, I'm going to let these two handle it, and I'm not going to get involved. Because when you get somebody involved, it will stress somebody out even more. The consuming of stress. but that includes friendships, relationships, family. But the more you intervene with a disagreement that you're not part of, it's not worth it. It will probably even amp it up more so. You don't escalate a problem, you don't escalate an argument. You leave it alone and you walk away. But it sounds like, from what I've been hearing, is that Andrew has a tough time, as I do, of walking away from things that can be stressful. Have I gotten in disagreements with people? Many times I have. But it's, as I said, it's never okay to remain upset or angry or have some sort of awful comment to say to somebody. And I state this to, I said, Andrew, if two people are fighting, I will say this is more of a learning curve for Andrew to get over. And I'm not there to coach him out of it. I wouldn't be there to coach him out of it. Because I know, as much as my mom has taught me to be strong, and that if you let others take control or try to bring you into a conflict, you're going to be drawn into that and you are going to react. It's best to leave it alone. But my mom's always taught me that if you see somebody you know having a conflict with another person, they need to work that out themselves. And I've given even my previous friend Jordan, the same support as I've given a lot of people in my life, and a lot of that support came from my mother. That if you're in a fight or if you're fighting with someone, you either work it out or you don't talk to that person. And I know it is hard not to get involved, but when somebody's trying to get you involved, that's when you need to be, that's when you need to say, hey, I don't want to be involved. You can't push me to be involved. I want to go and do my own thing. Will it anger people? Absolutely. And is it the person's fault, the one who walks away from it? I think those are the smartest damn people that walk away from something like that. They don't say anything. Honestly, I could even give you guys the hippo movement, but it's kind of like if you were the hippo, right? You were the hippo. You were one of the you okay, say there was like two hippos fighting, right? One of them lost the fight and he's swimming up to a canoe and he's mad as hell and he's going to flip that canoe with people in it. He's taking his anger cuz he lost that fight onto the ongoing canoe people by tipping over their canoe, putting them in the water, and swims away. I mean, it's kind of a similar situation where we want territory, and whatever enters, this isn't really on territory, but sometimes when I often see people fighting, I think of the animal kingdom. We're mammals just as much as we see hippos and any kind of wildlife. We are going to react to what we don't like. We're going to react to something invading our territory. Because the thing is, bodily functions are also a thing, but do you have the right to release these bodily functions? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really where you are, because you wouldn't want to release a loud burp in a studio with a crowd of people, or if you have to do something from the other end, do it in a confined area, do it in a space where it's allowed and you're away from people. But it's called control of starting a situation that shouldn't be, because the more people are fighting over something, or fighting or really like directly fighting with each other, and you intervene, that person that could be, as I said, that could be in the fight would be coming to that person more. And that's the thing. Somebody like Andrew, who is getting, who is giving support, will feel the less strength. I'm not stating Andrew is not strong. I'm stating that if, and I get it, people can become unlikable, but I hate to state it, but people, we do it for several things. Several things. And unfortunately, animals do the same things as we. It's so awesome how animals can be an example of a lot of things, where we often fight, and we can fight over the most dumbest shit. I feel like we have more of a communication way of fighting than animals do. Animals fight over territory, over females. As I said, we fight. Humans, I feel like, fight over some of the most simplest matters. I will say some of the dumbest things I've heard is, what is it, fighting over items in a store, fighting over things that can easily be fixed and be handled in the right fashion, in the right way. But my heart is fueled right now with what my mom has carried on me for so long, what I've done in my life to follow her in her footsteps. She's led me on quite a journey, and when we're together, we're unbeatable and we're unstoppable. I hate to say it, but people that attack with being unprovoked, meaning they're not actually unprovoked, meaning they're attacking somebody on site, which does occasionally happen. Whether they're on cocaine or a drug, it can happen and it can happen fast. The thing is, I remember that day at Lowe's. That wasn't scary for me, but that man that pulled in behind my mom in the parking lot. My mom was on the line. This guy wasn't. His tires were off the line, and the thing is, legacies can turn into family business. A good example of that is Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. When he died, his legacy in conservation with animals continued with his wife, his son, and his daughter, Bindi. But today at the church, something was very uneasy. Thor was like laying down right next to my mom on the couch, but my mom was kind of like, I had asked her if she had low blood sugar, but she didn't. But Thor was laying right next to her like he was sensing something was wrong. But anyways, the guy from Lowe's, he was definitely somebody who was currently in the wrong, made a big deal out of something that could have been resolved, could have walked away and really just kind of said nothing. It would have been good. But stating that it wasn't his problem that my mom had a stroke and that sometimes she makes mistakes, well, and called her mental. I knew not to get involved. I mean, I'm glad I didn't get involved. My mom handled herself, and she would have handled herself. She, I don't have to tell her how to handle herself. She knew exactly what to do and how to aim it towards this guy. I remember when I was a little kid, my mom always, I learned from her about what stranger danger was. You don't talk to strangers. One of the many things my mom told me is after you state how you feel or how you feel about what somebody says or how they behave, you hug them and you introduce yourself. Even though as a kid they tell you not to do that, because yes, stranger danger, I get it. I wouldn't let my kids talk to somebody they don't know until they get older, like me. when you get out the words you want to say to someone, peace should always come after that, because pointing out bad behavior and then giving peace, and then after that knowing that person, I guarantee it, you'll have that person in your head and you'll remember their name. Other humans human beings like to destroy human beings first sight. Once they see them, once they are triggered, once they are feeling like they can't escape, people are going to be jerks about it. They're going to act with violent behavior. You say what you need to say first. If those people are listening to you, awesome. But you make peace if they're listening to you by hugging them if they want a hug or a high five, and then you shake their hand, you introduce yourself. It's a proper introduction. I encourage many of those in my life to actually try that. You'll see the results when you walk away. You're going to feel so much better. But as I said, say what you need to say, have that person listen to you, then make peace. As I said, this is really effective when you encounter a stranger, somebody you don't know that is giving you shit first. I will say somebody who goes out of their way and says negative shit, or as I said, really actually, honestly, I think it actually is something that could help you rebuild a relationship with someone. Not, I feel like this isn't really something that would work for strangers necessarily, but it would also work for those who you might have a tough connection with, or you're trying to rebuild a connection with someone. You start off by stating what you don't like their behavior. You don't like what you don't like about their behavior. You follow it up with a hug or a handshake, whatever they're comfortable with, and introduce them, whether you're related. Introduce yourself, whether you're related, you're not related. The thing is, you can always love somebody without without causing any conflict. Sometimes I even want to like hook Thor up with a girlfriend, but he's much more of a listener than me. A lot of the time, like Thor will sit by you and like literally listen to what you have to say. He's a gentleman. And that's the thing, sometimes you got to revisit those roots in your past, because that potentially can be how you handle a tough situation. Is that you can exchange words, but then you're going to have to bring those exchangeable words to bed and replace them with an action like a high five or a hug. If people are comfortable in giving you hugs, even if it's a stranger, and introduce yourselves to them. But try it out. Try it out. I mean, as I said, it doesn't have to be intimate like a hug. It can be something simple as a handshake. If somebody wants like a handshake or a fist bump, and then after, you basic this is normal communication. When you exchange words, whether they're positive or negative, you also bring that person peace. nice meeting you, fist bump, and state it as, I didn't catch your name, or if could you tell me your name? Okay, Carlos, my name is Tom, nice to meet you. A proper introduction sometimes is the way to end a connection, because connections don't always may happen. But if you happen to run into somebody who's like, oh, I want to say something kind of derogatory to this person, or again, you make sure it's appropriate, or if you're starting up a conversation, a positive one, make it good, but don't make it last too long.